The candle in the tent was burning low. It was almost midnight, 3 days before the army would cross the Niemen River. Marshal Berthier put his numbers on the table again. He was Napoleon's top general, the man who planned every march. He said the same warning he always said: the Russians will burn their own fields, there will be nothing left to eat. Napoleon did not look up from his map. Outside, rain hit the roof of the tent. In another tent close by, 12 other generals argued about food and supplies that did not exist yet. Some of them had families back in Paris. None of them had ever seen a country this big or this empty. Then Armand de Caulaincourt spoke. He had lived in Russia for years, working there for France. He knew the roads were long and empty. He knew winter came early there and stayed late. He gave the same warning as Berthier, just in different words. This time, Napoleon looked up. He said the whole war would be over in 20 days. Then he said one more thing. After that, no one in the tent argued with him again. Outside, near the Niemen River, more than 600,000 soldiers waited for the order to move. It was June 1812. 3 days later, they crossed the river. No one wrote down the last words Napoleon said that night. By 1812, Napoleon had not lost a big war in 18 years. He beat Austria. He beat Prussia. He beat Russia 2 times already at places called Austerlitz and Friedland. Every time, the same thing happened. He moved fast. He forced one huge battle. He won it. Then, the other side asked for peace within weeks. He believed the same thing would happen again in Russia. His army was the biggest the world had ever seen. More than 600,000 men marched together from many different countries. Long lines of wagons followed behind them, carrying food, weapons, and medicine. This was not a wild risk. By every way Napoleon could think about it, this was the most careful plan of his whole life. Kings across Europe followed his orders because he simply never lost. His generals were smart men, not fools. Berthier had worked beside Napoleon for 15 years. He had watched this plan work again and again, in country after country. Caulaincourt had lived in Russia himself, and he still agreed to come on this trip. When Napoleon said the war would end in 20 days, he was not just talking big. It was a guess built from years and years of being right. Most of what we know about that night in the tent comes from one place. A historian named Adam Zamoyski spent years collecting French, Russian, and Polish stories about this war. He talked to soldiers' families. He read old letters that almost no one else had found. He gathered it all into one book called Moscow 1812. The free audiobook is linked below if you want the full story. There was only one problem with the plan Napoleon trusted so much. Russia had never planned to fight the way every other country had fought him before. The Russians never gave Napoleon the one big battle he needed. Their general, Kutuzov, kept pulling his army back again and again. As his men moved, they burned crops and whole villages behind them. By the time Napoleon reached the city of Smolensk in August, it was empty and half-burned. There was no food there and no one left to make peace with. Even before Smolensk, the long march itself was already killing the army. Heat, sickness, and bad roads made the army smaller every single day. Men fell sick from dirty water. Some simply walked away in the night and never came back. This happened before one big battle was even fought. People who study this war believe Napoleon had already lost almost half his men. Sickness and soldiers running away did most of that damage, not enemy attacks. Napoleon kept going anyway. On September 7, 1812, near a small village called Borodino, The two armies finally fought. It became the single deadliest day of the whole war. More than 70,000 men fell on that one field in one day. Napoleon won the battle, but Kutuzov's army survived, and it simply pulled back again, deeper into Russia. Kutuzov understood something Napoleon could not see yet. He believed that space and time would beat the French army long before Russian soldiers needed to fire another shot. Every mile deeper into Russia put the French further from food and closer to winter. A week later, Napoleon walked into Moscow. Sure, the Russians would ask for peace now. Instead, he found a city almost empty of people. Napoleon moved into the Kremlin, an old fort and palace in the middle of Moscow. Russian rulers had lived there for hundreds of years. Now Napoleon was living there instead, like a king who had just won the city. Within days, fires broke out across Moscow. Most historians believe Russians set the fires on their own city on purpose, to leave Napoleon with nothing he could use. Napoleon stood at a window inside the Kremlin and watched the city burn below him. He had marched hundreds of miles to capture Moscow. Now he watched it turn to ash instead, from the very palace he thought would prove his victory. He waited 5 weeks for a peace offer that never came. Caulaincourt begged him to leave before the snow arrived. Napoleon waited anyway, still sure that the Russians would ask for peace soon. By the time he finally gave the order to leave, it was already October 19th. Fewer than 100,000 soldiers were still fit to fight. He had kept waiting until it was almost winter. The first snow was only days away. There is a name of what happened inside Napoleon's mind before he even crossed that river. Scientists call it overconfidence bias. The clearest research on it comes from a scientist named Dominic Johnson. Johnson studied leaders across history who started wars they later lost. He found the same pattern again and again in country after country. These leaders did not lack information. Years of winning had made them believe that losing simply could not happen to them. He called this pattern positive illusions. The more a leader wins, the more their brain treats winning as part of who they are, not as luck. Losing stops feeling possible. It starts feeling impossible instead. Johnson found this same pattern in leaders going all the way back to World War I. It never really changed shape, no matter the country or the century. This is not only a Napoleon problem. Years later, Adolf Hitler studied this very same 1812 war before he invaded the Soviet Union in 1941. He believed his own army was different, stronger, and built better than Napoleon's had been. The result was almost the same. 18 years of winning did not just make Napoleon confident, it changed what he was even able to imagine. Berthier's warning, Caulaincourt's warning, the burned fields, the empty cities, the shrinking count of his army, none of it could compete with 18 years of being right. The proof was there the entire time. Napoleon simply could no longer see it as proof. He heard it as noise. The candle in that tent burned out a long time ago. But somewhere in an old French record, the numbers Berthier placed on that table still exist. They are exact, down to the mile, down to the pound of food. Napoleon read every single one of them before he gave his one-word answer. That is the part most people miss when they tell this story. Napoleon did not fail to see the danger. He saw it clearly, written down from two men who knew Russia better than anyone else in that tent. He looked at 18 years of being right, then he decided that record mattered more than the numbers sitting right in front of him. The information was never the real problem. The real problem was what 18 years of winning had done to the man reading it. That confidence walked 600,000 men across the river in June. Fewer than 1 in 10 crossed back.